This is Evolution's new circular saw. It's the R185CCSL. Evolution have designed this to replace the Rage 1B. It's got a 1200 watt motor, 185mm blade. It will cut 64mm vertically and 40mm at 45 degrees. It comes with a 3 meter cable, so a nice long cable there. It's got the usual Evolution 3-year guarantee. Inside the box, along with the circular saw, we've got a 185mm multi-purpose blade, a parallel edge guide, a dust adapter to allow you to connect a shop vac to it, a set of instructions. There's also an Allen key there for changing the blade. So let's install the blade. The first thing to note is that they've designed this machine so it will actually stand on the motor. So that's how you lock the spindle to attach the blade. Remove the Allen key, press down on the spindle lock. There, it's gone in. So pressing down on the spindle lock will allow us to remove the fittings. So on my saw, these two fittings have come off together. They need to be separated. So I'll carefully prise them apart with a knife. Be careful when you do that. That one is the one that goes back in the centre there. Now if you look on the blade, we've got direction of rotation, and then if we look on the saw, we've got direction of rotation as well. So make sure that you orientate the blade correctly. Pull the guard back, slide in the blade. The blade actually just fits onto a spigot there. There is a recess built into this so that it can push down onto the blade, and you can see it's got two flats there, so it's very easy to get this orientated correctly. Press that on there. The Allen screw actually is a normal thread, so it's a clockwise thread, so it's clockwise to tighten it. We'll turn it round and press the spindle lock in, which is there. So again, it's clockwise to tighten it. That's the blade fitted. A lot easier being able to stand it vertically to do that as well. All we've got to do now is to put this Allen key back into the handle so that it's ready to use next time. So let's have a look at the saw then. Let's look at some of the features. So we've got a cam lock there, and that's an improvement on the old Rage 1B, because that was a screw before. Now it's much quicker. So you release the cam and that allows you to tilt the saw over from 0 to 45 degrees and again lock it in positions. We've also got the same system on the back of the saw there to set the depth of cut. If we release it, you can actually change the depth of cut easily. I don't know whether you can see that in there, but there's also a graduated scale to give you some idea of whereabouts you're setting the saw to. There's a little arrow pointer at the bottom there. Now the Rage 1, the rear handle was similar to this one, but the front handle came up and over and you held it there. Now this is a much better way of holding the saw, so this handle is a good improvement as well. You've got a lot more control over the saw, and also I've got to mention that these orange bits on the handle here are soft rubber, so you've got a very good grip on that. They're really anti-slip, do a really good job of keeping the saw firm in your hands. Another thing is that this saw is 1.4 kilograms lighter than the Rage 1B. This has got a maximum depth of cut at 90 degrees of 64mm, and the old one was 60mm, so you've got an extra 4mm. And then for me, two major improvements. The first one being that we now have dust extraction and also the 3 meter cable. Now it's an extra meter compared to the Rage 1B, but that extra meter makes all the difference. So another improvement on this saw is that it's got an electric brake. It stops way quicker than the old Rage 1 did. If you're not familiar with Evolution, their multi-purpose blade, which ships with most of their equipment, will cut mild steel, plastic, aluminium. It'll cut mild steel to 6mm. It'll cut wood with nails, wood. It really is a multi-purpose blade. And because it's a multi-purpose blade, it makes these saws so versatile. You can use them for just about anything. So what I'm going to do now is demonstrate this machine cutting some of those materials. So let's start with cutting wood with nails. As you can see, it's gone straight through that with no issues at all. So next we'll cut some mild steel box section. That's 3mm thick. As soon as you've cut it, you can work with it. You also get a lovely clean cut with it. ABS plastic pipe. And again, we've got a lovely clean cut on that. Uni-strut. And again, that's cold to the touch and a nice clean cut. One thing I would say, this tip involves something called a speed square. That's a speed square. If you haven't got one of these things, you should definitely have one of these in your toolbox. They're absolutely brilliant. But let's just say that we want to take I don't know, half an inch off there. I'm not even going to measure it, but we're saying we're taking off half an inch. On the scale you've got 0 there with a notch and you've got 45 with a notch. The 0 mark goes on the pencil line. The speed square on the workpiece, pressed against it so it's at 90 degrees. A 90-degree cut, that's absolutely perfect. I must emphasise though that you need to keep your fingers away from the saw. So the last thing I want to show you is how to make a jig that will allow you to cut board material and things like doors, that sort of thing, very accurately and easily. Now I'm going to make this fairly short, but you can make it much longer depending on the size of board that you've got. So the first thing that we need to do is to cut a strip off the board, and it needs to have a good straight square edge on it. It needs to be somewhere in the region of 2 or 3 inches, it doesn't matter. Actually, I'm just going to stop the saw there because I don't know whether you can see all the dust coming off the side. I'm going to connect the shop vac to this and we'll see what happens when we use the shop vac. It was a slight improvement. So basically, we've cut a strip off. This is my nice square edge. So place the strip on top of the remainder of the board with the square edge at this side, and then place the circular saw on the board and move it along until, if you run the saw along this square edge, it will cut a little bit off this board. Now I've got about a half an inch there, so I'm going to put a screw in there. There we go. So what we need to do now is to saw along here. Now then, we know that this edge now is exactly where the cut is going to be whenever we use this saw on this jig. So you place the edge of the jig on the pencil line. Then what you do is you clamp it and then just make the cut. So the base against a straight edge. So there we go, you've got a lovely clean cut there, a nice straight edge, very, very easy and quick to do, and it takes all the guesswork out as well. The Evolution R185CCSL. Now Evolution have done exactly what I would expect them to do. They've gone away and they've improved an old machine and made it much better. It's lighter, it's more ergonomic, it's a lot easier to use. The cam levers are a vast improvement. It's much quicker than turning a thumb screw. Dust extraction, well, it does do something. It doesn't do an awful lot, but I don't really think you can expect it to with a circular saw. This is a very nice circular saw, and I think any tradesman or DIYer or anybody in reality would be pleased to have this in the workshop. I hope you've found the review useful, and thank you for watching.